With IMBIBITOR LUNAE Dan Heng coming soon, I can no longer content my pent-up desires to make him plow his big dragon into my soul. That's why I've decided to bring you guys an early IL Dan Heng breakdown, explain to you why I think he'll actually be a lot better than what most people are shaping him to be. Firstly, Dragon Goku has a skill. What it does is that every time you use it, you will spend 1 skill point and your basic attack changes 4. There are 4 total forms to your basic attack. The actual basic without using E, the 1E basic, the 2E basic followed by the 3E basic. I like to call this the put it in from below me daddy. His normal basic hits an enemy twice. His 1E basic hits one enemy 3 times. 2E basic hits one enemy 3 times and then hits the same enemy 2 extra times along with the enemies adjacent to the target. His 3E basic hits one enemy 3 times, then hits the same enemy 4 extra times along with adjacent enemies. From what we understand, getting to Dan Heng's 3rd E basic will provide him with the most value. That's mainly due to his talent as well, which grants him increased damage for every hit he does during an attack. The multipliers and how it actually works are not all confirmed yet, but from what we can tell from his trials, his damage output on subpar stat line is absolutely ridiculous. There are some people from the CN servers that reverse engineer his damage based on the trial, and IL Dan Heng's multipliers on 3E basic turned out to be a whopping 500% on the main target and 200% on the adjacent ones, for a total of 900%. Of course, this could be changed when he's actually released, but even if you just compare it to the others, this is almost as much damage as what a Jing Yuan with 10 stack of Lightning Lord would do, which would basically total up to 990%. On top of that, IL Dan Heng has an ultimate which is a 3-hit single target attack that does partial damage to enemies adjacent to the target as well. Note that this will not be Dan Heng's main source of damage, but that's not to say it's a weak ultimate. It looks to have very decent multipliers based on rumors. From this, we can see that the idea would be to use 3E basic, obtain the most amount of stacks you can gain from his talent, and chain it right into his ultimate with all of those damage buffs intact. On top of that, this ultimate also grants Dragon Goku 1 stack of Squash the Scaramouche. This stack can be spent as a skill point only for IL Dan Heng. It does cost 140 energy, which is quite costly, but his enhanced basic will all generate more energy the more you use E. By how much exactly, it is too soon to tell though. From the looks of things, IL Dan Heng seems to be an extremely skill point hungry character, which is what most people are complaining about. In today's video, I'm gonna try and dive deeper into this topic. The game plan with IL Dan Heng would be to get his 3E basic as often as possible, since it is doing equivalent to what a 10 stack Jing Lightning Lord would do. To put it in perspective, you will only be able to use the 10 stack Jing nuke once every 2 turns since it's limited by its speed. That basically means the big payoff with Dan Heng is that if you can do his 3E basic every turn, Dragon Goku will safely outdamage any other DPS out there. This potentially could put him as the best damage dealer in the game. However, you can't just like click a skill and then expect him to be the best, right? The trick here is to find a way and provide Dan Heng with 3 skill points every turn. A lot of people are complaining about this because it's pretty hard to have 3 skill points every turn, right? Which, you know what, it's a valid concern. However, the easiest way to do that is to pair him with only skill point positive characters. A great Dan Heng team will likely consist of 1 buffer, 1 debuffer, and a healer. The buffers that are skill point positive will be Tingyun and Asta with a cock. A debuffer will be a high-speed Pella or Silver Wolf, and the best healer here will be Luocha. All of these characters are able to function without having to use their skills every turn, which makes them perfect for Dan Heng. In my own opinion, using IL Dan Heng with Pella, Tingyun, and Luocha should serve to be a very good team composition. Pella is pretty much the only character that can completely ignore the use of her skill. The main source of debuffs will come from her ultimate and her Lyco. Just so happens her talent helps her recharge energy very quickly, and all she needs to do is to hit someone with a debuff. Give her Lucas Lyco and you're set. By continuously using Pella's basic and ultimate, Tingyun only using her skill once every 3 turns, and Luocha only using his basic as he should, IL Dan Heng will now be able to perform his 3E basic absolutely every turn. That's basically a nuke that does more damage than even some characters' ultimate every turn. If you're able to pull his Lycon, which gets him energy regeneration, you'll likely be able to achieve a 3E basic cycle for 3 turns and have just enough for a Dan Heng's ultimate. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, we now have a spammable Lightning Lord at 10 stack, guys. Of course, if you don't have the characters mentioned, you can simply switch his playstyle around. Instead of the 3E basic spam, you can alternate between a normal basic and a 3E basic. This will certainly be less damage output, but it opens up a lot more versatility for your team. For example, you can now use the free Yukong and Asta to help out Dan Heng if you genuinely have no one else. Charge up your skill points with 1 turn, spend them all in the other turn, and there you go. pretty simple strategy. This will now be similar to Jingyuan's gameplay where he'll have his big lightning lord nuke every 2 turns. Essentially guys, IL Dan Heng is a character that can provide you with absurd damage ceiling, but in exchange, you will have to put him in very specific team compositions. If you don't, his value certainly drops, but not to the point where you can't see him as a 5-star character though. I've seen a lot of people saying that he's a skippable character, which although I can't deny that, right? Because he doesn't look like someone that can be used easily, but I definitely don't think he's a bad character at all. Well, I mean, if you really look at a bigger picture, Honkai Show has 0 endgame anyway. You can 0 cycle clear the hardest stage with a free 4-star character. I'll clear it with a 0 relic Kafka, and eventually I'm gonna solo it with a Bailu. I have made an oath. But after doing some preliminary research with Dan Heng, I can conclude that he's definitely not a horrible character that you should never even consider about, right? Even a simple comparison we can make is with Qingque. At its core, they're both very much similar. We want them to spend several skill points to give yourself damage buffs and nuke your enemies. And if you're a Qingque main, or if you've watched her dance before, you know that she's an absolute beast, even though you could get unlucky and not have the enhanced basic out, right? IL Dan Heng is pretty much a stronger version that also doesn't rely on any form of RNG. There's simply no way that he is bad. Not when he looks that beatable, guys. Although it is undeniable that you have to tolerate his skill point hunger, which I would understand. If you simply do not have certain characters that can work with him, you would find him a bit troubling to use. Kind of an unfortunate case, seeing that the only skill point posted to tanks or healers are 5 stars. Well, at least at the moment. After digging deeper though, I also realized there's a very valid reason of why people are choosing to skip IL Dan Heng as well. And that reason being, Fuxuan is also coming later on in 1.3. And Fuxuan is one of the rarer characters in the game that's preservation, because if you look at how Hoyoverse released previous characters, they had Seela, Jingyuan, Kafka Blade, and now they have Dan Heng. All of them are pretty much hyper carry DPSs. And when the game practically brings you 0 challenge, if you just have one of them, you can kind of already beat every stage of MOC without breaking a sweat. So do you really need IL Dan Heng that much though? Or is Fuxuan, someone who's like a 5-star tank that could keep your team alive just by standing there, more worth it? I would say if you already own like 2 hyper carries, there's kind of no reason for you to pull Dan Heng. But, you know, of course, if you like somebody, you should always pull them. Again, I have to stress this out. This game is like not challenging at all. So if anything, there shouldn't even really be a meta. Whoever you pull are all characters that can be used in the hardest content in the game, which, well, it's not really that difficult if you really look at it. So that's pretty much I would suggest you to do. If you like Dan Heng, go for him. This video is sort of just a breakdown of what his kits look like and if he's actually that horrible, which, well, I don't think so, right? But if you are struggling with the game and you are hoping to just get to the end game as fast as you could, I would actually say Fuxuan could bring you more value, since she's like the Japart type of character where just by having him or her around, your entire team gets very safe. And honestly, safety is the priority in harder stages anyway. If you die, you kind of can't win. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my preliminary breakdown of Dragon Daddy Dan Heng's kit. I definitely think he is gonna be a bit of a challenge to utilize, but if you utilize him well, he will quite practically be the strongest DPS in the game. Do let me know what you think about the guy. I, for one, think he needs to hug me tightly amidst a midnight rain with a lamppost glimmering onto us. And that is all. Take care.